Imagine cruising down the interstate at 80 miles per hour. The wind is howling, the engine is humming right in its power band, and you're feeling completely dialed in. You've got a $500 GoPro strapped to your bike, capturing the ride of your life. Then you hit a microscopic pothole. You hear a sharp crack over the exhaust note. You look in your mirror just in time to see your expensive camera bouncing off the asphalt like a skipped stone, shattering into 1,000 plastic shards before getting vaporized by the tires of an 18-wheeler. I've been wrenching on motorcycles for over 2 decades. I know the exact torque specs of your axle nut, I know the precise clearances of your valve shims, and I also know the exact failure points of the garbage camera mounts you're blindly trusting with your expensive gear. The action camera accessory market is a billion-dollar scam. It is flooded with drop-shipped, brittle plastic garbage marked up 500%, engineered with zero understanding of motorcycle dynamics, and quite literally designed to fail. When you bolt cheap plastic to a vibrating piece of metal going highway speeds, you aren't recording a video. You are setting a trap. Today, I am systematically exposing the 5 action camera mount brands that are robbing you blind and sending your cameras to an early grave. I'm going to break down the material science, the structural flaws, and the exact reasons they snap, slip, and disintegrate. And when we're done dragging the trash out into the light, I will give you the only 2 engineered solutions that actually deserve to be anywhere near your motorcycle. Let's start with a product that has somehow convinced an entire generation of riders that it belongs on a motorcycle, the Joby Gorilla Pod. You see this thing everywhere. It costs around $50 and it looks like a robotic squid. Vloggers love it because you can wrap the flexible ball and socket legs around anything, right? Wrong. Absolutely. Unequivocally wrong. A motorcycle is not a static park bench. A motorcycle is a rolling earthquake. Whether you are riding a torquey V-twin that shakes your fillings loose, or a high-revving inline-4 that produces a high-frequency buzz that numbs your hands, your bike is constantly generating resonant frequencies. Those frequencies travel straight through the frame, up the forks, and directly into the handlebars. When you wrap those flexible Joby plastic balls around a bar, you aren't creating a rigid mount. You are creating a multi-hinged pendulum. Those ball and socket joints rely purely on plastic friction to maintain their position. Under the relentless micro-vibrations of a motorcycle engine, that friction is instantly compromised. The joints begin to wear out. They act as pivot points that actually amplify the vibration instead of dampening it. Add the aerodynamic drag of wind hitting your camera at 70 miles per hour, and what happens? The sagging nightmare begins. The legs slowly start to slip, your camera droops like a wilted flower, and eventually the structural integrity of the plastic joints fails entirely. One strong gust of wind, or one decent bump in the road, and those ball joints pop out of their sockets, dropping your rig straight into the wheel well. Joby charges a premium price for a tripod designed for static photography, and selling the idea that it works for power sports is borderline negligent. Next up, we have the ultimate illusion of value, the generic 50-in-1 Amazon kits. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You search for GoPro mounts and you find a massive box of 50 different accessories sold under unpronounceable names like Neewer, Suptig, or Akaso, all for the suspiciously low price of $25. You think you've hit the jackpot. You haven't. You've just bought a box of pre-shattered dreams. Let's talk about material science. A quality mount is made from advanced composites or machined aluminum. These 50-in-1 kits are injection molded from recycled, bottom-of-the-barrel ABS plastic. This type of plastic is incredibly susceptible to UV degradation. Leave it out in the sun on a few rides, and the chemical bonds in the polymer begin to break down, turning the plastic brittle. But the real crime is the manufacturing tolerances. If you look closely at the mounting fingers on these cheap accessories, you will see highly visible mold lines. In structural engineering, we call these stress risers. These are microscopic fault lines where the plastic is weakest. When you attach a camera to your bike and hit highway speeds, the wind drag creates a lever arm effect, putting immense twisting force directly on those stress risers. And let's not ignore the hardware. The thumb screws included in these kits are made from cheap, unhardened pot metal. They aren't stainless steel. Ride through one rainstorm or live near the coast, and that cheap steel instantly begins to oxidize and rust. The rust seeps into the plastic threads, seizing the bolt. When you try to force it loose, the brittle, UV-degraded plastic fingers snap clean off. You paid $25 to guarantee the destruction of a $500 camera. Moving on to number 3, we have a product that physically damages your riding gear. The Tellison Helmet Strap Chin Mount. This little contraption costs around $20 and is marketed as a non-permanent, easy-to-use alternative to sticky adhesive mounts. It uses fabric webbing straps that route through the chin bar of your helmet, held together by a plastic faceplate. It sounds convenient until you actually put it on your head. Here's the fundamental flaw. The straps have to pass through the eye port of your helmet. Because the webbing is thick, it completely blocks your helmet visor from closing and sealing against the rubber gasket. What does that mean for you? It means at anything over 40 miles per hour, you have a direct air leak right into your eyes. You get aggressive wind noise, a high-pitched whistle that will drive you insane. And if it rains, water blasts directly onto the inside of your visor. But the mechanical nightmare doesn't stop there. Under the force of wind drag, fabric straps stretch. They do not hold tension like a solid mechanical clamp. As the straps stretch, the camera begins to bounce, completely ruining any digital stabilization your action camera is trying to process. And because the plastic faceplate is now loose, it acts like a piece of sandpaper. As it vibrates against the chin bar, it grinds road grit and dirt directly into your helmet's clear coat. You are paying $20 to permanently scratch and ruin a $700 premium Arai or Shui helmet, just so you can record incredibly shaky, unusable footage. Our fourth offender is from a brand that should frankly know better, the Insta360 official motorcycle bundle heavy-duty clamp. This setup will run you around $45, and it is heavily marketed for mounting the Insta360 camera onto a long invisible selfie stick attached to your handlebars or crash bars. The issue here is basic physics, specifically the concept of mechanical leverage. When you mount a camera to the end of a 3-foot selfie stick, that stick becomes a massive pry bar. The weight of the camera, combined with the extreme wind resistance at highway speeds, exerts an unbelievable amount of torque on the base clamp. To counteract that torque, you need a clamp with a death grip. Insta360's clamp uses a rubber friction pad to grip the cylindrical tubing of your motorcycle. Here is the problem with rubber. It compresses. When the torque of the selfie stick pushes against the clamp, the rubber pad squishes, deforms, and eventually rolls over the metal tubing. The clamp starts to slip. Riders try to fix this by over-tightening the U-bolt mechanism, but because the hardware isn't properly hardened, the threads on the bolt strip out under the excessive torque. Suddenly, you hit a bump, the rubber slips, the stripped threads let go, and your 3-foot selfie stick acts like a trebuchet, swinging backward and violently slamming your expensive 360 camera straight into your custom-painted gas tank. They call it a heavy-duty clamp, but relying on a single rubber-lined friction point to hold a 3-foot lever arm at 80 miles per hour is an engineering joke. And finally, the worst offender of them all. The brand that robs you blind by weaponizing its own logo. The official GoPro handlebar, seat post, and pole mount. They have the audacity to charge $40 for this piece of hardware, relying entirely on brand loyalty to mask the fact that it is structurally inadequate for motorcycles. When you buy official GoPro gear, you assume it is tested for extreme action. But this specific mount is made of standard, thin-walled polycarbonate. The design relies on a hinged clamp that tightens down with a single screw. The hinge pin is notoriously weak, and the plastic ribs that make up the clamping jaws are shockingly thin. This mount was designed for the seat post of a mountain bike traveling at 15 miles per hour on a dirt trail. It was never engineered to withstand the harmonic resonance of a 1000cc superbike, or the aerodynamic drag of a naked street fighter tearing down the highway. When you clamp it to your motorcycle's handlebars, the inner rubber liner almost immediately starts to walk and slip. Because it slips, riders naturally crank down on the tightening screw as hard as they can. This puts the thin polycarbonate hinge under immense constant stress. Eventually, usually right in the middle of a ride, the stress overcomes the tensile strength of the plastic. You hear a loud crack, the hinge shears entirely, and your camera is gone. You aren't paying $40 for a reliable mount. You are paying $40 for a stamped logo on a piece of plastic that is guaranteed to fail under motorcycle conditions. Enough of the garbage. We've dragged the overpriced, under-engineered plastic toys through the mud, and frankly, that's exactly where they belong. So how do you actually secure a camera to a motorcycle? How do you guarantee that your footage is buttery smooth and your hardware stays bolted to the bike, no matter how hard you twist the throttle? You stop relying on friction and cheap plastic. You demand true mechanical grip, proper metallurgy, and advanced polymers. I'm going to give you the only two mounts I allow near my shop. First up is the ultimate solution for helmet mounting, the Dango Design Gripper Mount. This piece of engineering costs about $50, and it is worth every single penny. I call this thing the mechanic's vice. Forget about stretching fabric straps that ruin your visor seal. Forget about sticky adhesive pads that melt and peel off in the summer heat. The Dango Design Mount uses a heavy-duty, dual-torsion spring mechanism. You squeeze it open, slide it over the chin bar of your helmet, and let it go. It bites down like a bulldog and absolutely refuses to let go. The clamping force on this mount is staggering. It uses a purely mechanical grip, distributing the pressure evenly across the inside and outside of the chin bar without obstructing your visor in the slightest. You can snap your visor shut, seal out the wind noise, and ride in perfect silence. The inner grips are lined with high-density, non-marring polyurethane that grips the helmet shell without scratching the clear coat. Because the grip is entirely mechanical, it doesn't care about UV degradation. It doesn't care about the ambient temperature. It doesn't care if you are riding through a torrential downpour. It stays exactly where you put it. The dual-axis rotation allows you to dial in the exact angle of your camera, and the entire assembly is built incredibly tough. The best part, when you stop for lunch, you can squeeze the clamp, pull the camera off your helmet in 2 seconds, and clamp it to your handlebar, your foot peg, or a nearby fence to get a different shot. It is versatile, indestructible, and engineered by people who actually understand action sports. The second brand you need to know about provides the absolute gold standard for hard mounting to the motorcycle itself. The QuadLock Action Camera Adapter. When you buy into the QuadLock ecosystem, including the base mount and the action camera adapter, you are spending around $50 to $60, and what you get is a mounting system with the tolerances of a machined billet piston. QuadLock doesn't use cheap, recycled ABS. Their mounts are constructed from glass-filled nylon. In the engineering world, this means microscopic fibers of glass are mixed directly into the nylon polymer during the molding process. The result is a composite material that offers immense structural rigidity, extreme temperature resistance, and a tensile strength that rivals some metals. They use a patented dual-stage locking mechanism. You push the adapter in, twist it, and a spring-loaded collar snaps into place. Once it locks, it is a vault. There is zero play, zero slop. Now pay very close attention to this next detail, because it is the secret to perfect motorcycle footage. QuadLock sells a highly rated vibration dampener for their smartphone mounts to protect phone cameras. People naturally assume they need to buy that dampener for their action camera as well. Do not do it. Action cameras have incredible digital stabilization software built in. These software algorithms are tuned to eliminate the high-frequency vibrations of an engine. If you put a physical rubber dampener under an action camera, the dampener creates a low-frequency secondary wobble as the camera moves around on the rubber isolators. The camera's software gets completely confused by this secondary movement, resulting in warped, jittery, unusable video. To make that stabilization work flawlessly, the camera needs to be perfectly rigid with the motorcycle. It needs to move exactly when the bike moves. Because the QuadLock Action Camera Adapter uses that incredibly stiff glass-filled nylon and a rock-solid locking collar, it eliminates all secondary wobble. It hard mounts the camera so securely that your camera's internal stabilization can do exactly what it was programmed to do. It is precision engineering applied to a problem that cheap plastic could never solve. The reality of motorcycle riding is harsh. The vibration, the wind drag, the G-forces and the elements do not care about the marketing claims on a cheap cardboard box. If you are going to bolt a $500 piece of electronics to a machine that produces extreme harmonic resonance and hurtles down the highway at 80 miles per hour, you cannot cheap out on the foundation. Stop trusting your expensive gear to $30 plastic toys. Stop buying mounts that rely on stretching fabrics, compressing rubber, or brittle polycarbonate hinges. When you use garbage mounts, you aren't saving money. You are gambling with your camera, and the house always wins. Invest in real engineering. Buy the Dango design gripper for your helmet. Buy the quad lock for your handlebars. Bolt them down, torque them properly, and hit the road knowing your gear is locked in like a factory engine component. Do it right, or don't do it at all.